want to bring in Republican strategist, former chief of staff for Senator Mike Lee, and host of Inside Sources on KSL, Boyd Matheson. Boyd, hello to you. What are the advantages, disadvantages of reinstating Kevin McCarthy, the likelihood of that happening, given what's going on in Israel?
Well, the advantages are obvious that he has an understanding of the region. He has key allies in the region, as well as in Congress and in other apparatus around the government. So I think that is a pretty fast track. The reality of that is I don't see that actually happening. I think that would be a really tough one to get done. And sadly, that does put us in a place of weakness, which is exactly what organizations like Hamas are looking for. They're looking for any undercut in terms of confidence or unity within a nation, and they've clearly seen that. And it's not just the chaos going on in Congress. Part of this is also what has been happening with the Biden administration and this whole idea of ratcheting down at any cost, of appeasement, of de-escalation. It's been much more about avoiding conflict than having serious conversations. And I think both Iran and Hamas clearly in collusion there have decided this is a good opportunity. Obviously, there's some things going on inside of Israel in terms of Benjamin Netanyahu and his own turmoil inside the country, that they saw this was a great opportunity where there was a lot of division in Israel, a lot of division in the United States, a lot of weakness being projected by the president. And so for bad actors, that's a recipe for them to take action and be very emboldened.
Right. It opens the door. What are Republicans' options then right now in the immediacy of this?
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is that they will gather tomorrow. Hopefully they move that timeline up. They should get everyone back in town today, if at all possible. Have that meeting inside the Republican conference, get some consensus around who that speaker should be, get it to the floor of the House and get that done rapidly. Because I think Speaker McCarthy is actually right. I don't think there is a path where the Speaker pro tem can wield pretty extensive power. It's just not the way it's structured. They would have to change the rules, and that's a whole circus in and of itself to change those rules. And so I think it would just breed more chaos and more uncertainty rather than a lot of clarity. So my guess, my hope is that they'll get it together. They'll do it behind closed doors in their own conference and caucus meeting at latest tomorrow, and then move to the floor and get a vote taken for a new Speaker of the House.
Yeah, the process is not a quick one, but it does feel as though urgent at this hour. On Saturday, Representative Jim Baird said political games must stop and America needs to show leadership amid the Hamas attacks. That's something I've heard you echo as well in the past. How do we get to a place where we can disagree, but when things like this come up, when Israel is attacked by Hamas, that America leads?
Yeah, I think there's two components to that, Marnie, and I'm glad you raised that, because to me, these are the crucial questions. When we're looking at voting for someone for office, the question I always want to make sure we're asking is this person in a position to show political courage? If this is the best job that they're ever going to get, or if this is a path to a bigger platform or to more income or whatever it might be, then every decision they'll ever make will be based on the politics of it all. And we've seen that on both the Democrats and the Republican side of the aisle. And so you have to have political courage. And to have political courage, you have to be able to say, I'm willing to lose my job or to not be reelected or to have to face a primary challenger to do the right thing. And we need more leaders in Washington who are willing to say, first, what's best for the country, what's best for my constituents, and then act with courage in that space. It's not easy. All the incentives have been turned upside down in Washington, D.C., where we incentivize all the wrong things, all the bad behavior, we reward it. And so we've got to change that part of it. And as I've said before, Marnie, this is also a we the people problem. We have to really start assessing who are we sending back to these positions, because we don't send them back there for when it's a great day and everything's going well. We send them back for exactly times like this. And if we're choosing people based on how good their social media skills are or how provocative they can be, then we're going to get people with zero political courage. And then when it matters the most, when, as Churchill said, you get that tap on the shoulder, they're not going to be willing, they're not going to be worthy for those finest hour moments. And that takes political courage. We're just rewarding the wrong behavior. And as I always say, it's like your teenagers. Don't reward bad behavior. But we keep doing that in Congress, both sides of the aisle, and we the people keep doing the same thing. If we want political courage, we have to show political courage as well in terms of being willing to vote for something different.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.